The Xenobiology Research Station orbited silently above Kepler 442b, its sterile corridors humming with recycled air. Hazel Martinez, junior researcher and self-proclaimed baby whisperer of the galaxy, had just finished her evening rounds when she noticed something odd. The nursery door to Section C stood slightly ajar, the section housing the Vorthak cubs. Vorthaks. Even their name sent shivers through seasoned soldiers. 7-foot-tall apex predators from Sigma Draconis. They possessed retractable claws that could slice through steel, enhanced night vision, and a hunting instinct that had earned them the galaxy's fear and respect. The Galactic Council had classified them as a Level 9 threat species. Yet here in this research station, 3 of their cubs resided as part of an unprecedented diplomatic exchange program. Hazel peered through the gap. The cub's primary caretaker was nowhere to be seen. Strange. Protocol demanded the nursery never be left unattended. She pushed the door open, her footsteps soft against the padded floor designed to accommodate the cub's developing claws. "Hello, little ones," she whispered. Though little was relative, each cub already stood at her shoulder height at barely 6 months old. The 3 cubs, designated V1, V2, and V3 in the files but secretly named Midnight Storm and Shadow by Hazel, turned their luminescent yellow eyes toward her. Their fur, black as space itself, rippled as they moved with that unsettling grace all Vorthaks possessed. Storm, the smallest, made a low trilling sound. Hazel had studied enough xenobiology to recognize distress when she heard it. She moved closer, noticing the automated feeder had malfunctioned, its display blinking error codes. "Oh, you poor things. You're hungry, aren't you?" Without thinking, a habit Albert constantly warned her about, Hazel moved to the manual controls. The door sealed behind her with a soft hiss. She paid it no mind, focused on bypassing the feeder's error system. After 10 minutes of coaxing the machine, it finally dispensed the specially formulated nutrition cubes the cubs required. The cubs approached cautiously, their movements predatory even in their youth. But Hazel had spent months observing them through the reinforced glass. She knew their body language, understood their social hierarchy. Midnight, the alpha, despite being female, something that had surprised the xenobiologists, approached first. Hazel sat perfectly still as the cubs sniffed her, those infamous claws remaining mercifully retracted. Then, to her amazement, Midnight began to purr, a deep rumbling sound that vibrated through the floor. The other 2 cubs joined in, surrounding Hazel in a circle of black fur and contentment. "You're just big kitties, aren't you?" She laughed softly, carefully extending her hand. Storm nuzzled against it, nearly knocking her over with his enthusiasm. Hours passed unnoticed. Hazel found herself teaching the cubs human games. Pat-a-cake became particularly popular once modified for paws, and they, in turn, showed her their play-fighting techniques. She dozed off eventually, surrounded by warm fur and rumbling purrs, feeling safer than she had in months despite being locked in with the galaxy's most feared predator species. She woke to the sound of screaming alarms and Albert's voice over the intercom, pitched high with barely controlled panic. "Hazel, stay absolutely still. Don't make any sudden movements." Blinking awake, she found herself in what others might call a nightmare scenario. Midnight had curled around her protectively, massive paws on either side of Hazel's head. Storm and Shadow flanked them, all 3 cubs now fully alert, their eyes glowing brighter in response to the alarms. Their claws had extended slightly, a defensive posture. The door exploded inward with a shaped charge. 6 members of the station's elite guard rushed in, pulse rifles raised, their armor gleaming under the emergency lights. Commander Zhang, a veteran of the Vorthak Wars, led the breach. "Hold fire," Hazel shouted, raising her hands while remaining prone. "They're not hostile." The scene that greeted the elite guard defied everything in their training manuals. The human researcher lay surrounded by Vorthak cubs in what appeared to be a protective formation. More impossibly, when the guards advanced, the cubs didn't attack. They instead pressed closer to Hazel, trilling in what xenobiologists would later classify as a protective warning. "Martinez," Commander Zhang said slowly, his rifle still raised but finger off the trigger. "How are you still alive?" "Because," Hazel said, carefully sitting up with Midnight still pressed against her side. "They're children, Commander. Not monsters, and I think I'm part of their pack now." Albert pushed past the guards, his face pale. "Hazel, you've been in here for 14 hours. The entire station went into lockdown when the sensors detected your biosigns surrounded by 3 Vorthak signatures, with no movement for hours. You thought they'd eaten me, Hazel finished. But look at them, Albert. Really look. The guards watched in stunned silence as Storm head-bumped Hazel's shoulder affectionately, nearly sending her sprawling. Shadow began grooming her hair with a tongue like industrial sandpaper, while Midnight maintained her vigilant watch over the guards. Commander Jung slowly lowered his rifle. In 30 years of military service, he'd seen Vorthaks tear through battalions. He'd never seen one groom a human like a beloved pack member. The diplomatic implication, Albert whispered, pulling out his datapad with shaking hands. The Vorthak ambassador needs to know about this immediately. Hazel, you might have just changed everything. Later, as the cubs were safely returned to their repaired nursery, with Hazel now officially assigned as their primary caretaker, she couldn't help but smile. The galaxy feared the Vorthaks, and perhaps rightfully so. But she'd learned something that night. Even the deadliest predators in the known universe could recognize kindness. Sometimes humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their weapons. Sometimes it was just a tired researcher willing to sit with hungry children, regardless of their species. The Vorthak ambassador would arrive within the week, specifically requesting to meet the human who had been adopted by their young. For the first time in 50 years, there was hope for peace between the two species, all because Hazel Martinez had accidentally locked herself in a nursery and decided to solve a feeding problem instead of panicking. ये स्टोरी आपके टाइटल के मुताबिक लिखी गई है। इसमें हेजल एक्सीडेंटली वॉर्थक कब्स, जो डेंजरस प्रेडेटर स्पीसीज हैं, के साथ लॉक्ड हो जाती हैं, लेकिन वो उनके साथ बॉन्ड बना लेती हैं। जब एलीट गार्ड दरवाज़ा तोड़कर अंदर आते हैं, तो वो देखते हैं कि कब्स ने हेजल को अपना पैक मेंबर मान लिया है। इस यूनिक सिचुएशन से डिप्लोमेटिक रिलेशंस बेटर होने का स्कोप बनता है।